One Piece, Marco ascends as the ultimate phoenix. Episode 71. There is no need to fight the place before. The place where Marco fell belongs to the Stone Mountain forest on the island, and as far as the eye can see, the rocky hills are like bamboo shoots, and you can't see the edge at a glance. There were originally all kinds of fierce beasts here, entrenched on the Stone Mountain, but at this moment they had already fled. As soon as Marco fell, not far in front of him, several fierce sea thieves walked down from their respective stone mountains. The sea thief with a reward of 800 million Bailey, the deep sea crocodile, the most evil cannibal sea thief in the world, Lester SK, and one. The most evil pirate hunter, Snakehead Clan, Black Snake Poison. There were exclamations in the distance. These three are all famous people in the New World, and they have died countless human lives in their hands, but they are all murderous people without blinking. You guys want my head? Facing the three people, Marco's words were unusually calm, but with endless killing intent, and his eyes became more and more cold. Naturally, the sea thief deep sea crocodile, wearing a crocodile headdress, showed his enthusiasm without concealment. If it was before, I really didn't dare to do it rashly, but now, you just exhausted your physical strength to kill Drought Jack, presumably. Very weak, right? If you want, come and get it. Where is so much nonsense? Marco was not afraid at all. His eyes flashed over a few people. You few, if you want, go together. Don't waste my time. Hiss. Hearing Marco's words, the other pirates watching the battle not far away gasped for it. The three people who blocked Marco's way were the opposite reaction from the others, and they dared to stand up at this time. They must have been quite sure. I don't like teaming up. You guys go first. If you have the ability, Marco's head, you take it, I will not interfere. Black Snake Venom was the first to speak. His voice was unusually hoarse, like a poisonous snake neighing, which was very unbearable to hear. After he finished speaking, he immediately retreated and hid in the shadows. I'm not in a hurry. Lester SK also spoke, indicating that he was not in a hurry to move, but he did not retreat, and kept standing in place, seeming. What is waiting for? Then it's up to me to get the blood bounty order and the bounty of 1.5 billion. The deep sea crocodile is very grasping, and he is the first pirate to land on the island. Witnessing Marco's whole battle, his heart is extremely firm, and at this moment, it is Marco's weakest time. Kill you while you're sick. Here is his life motto. The sea thief, who had already reached a bounty of 800 million 5 years ago, has now reached a higher level of strength. How terrifying it is, no one knows, because people who have seen him shoot are all dead. The deep-sea crocodile made a decisive move, instantly turning into a large crocodile that was tens of meters long, fierce and cruel, and extremely terrifying. Airplanes. A strong armed color domineering aura instantly covered his entire crocodile head, the terrifying Simpson giant mouth, 2 rows of hideous teeth, and hard lin armor, all covered. Roar. The huge crocodile suddenly opened its huge mouth, and 2 rows of sharp teeth flashed a cold light, biting towards Marco. This mouthful can definitely spit out the whole person. Zheng. At this moment, 2 amazing slashes, in an extremely domineering way, slashed sideways, and slashed away from the huge crocodile mouth above Marco's head. Wah! Deep-sea crocodile screamed and quickly retreated. He looked forward, his eyes became more hideous. Foil Bista. How can this kind of interesting battle be without me? An uncle with a kind smile on his face came over. He was Foil Bista. The 5th captain of the Whitebeard pirate group is here. Many pirates were shocked. Once the strongest force in the New World, the Whitebeard Pirates. Is it really going to make a comeback? Marco, you recover first, I'll come. Slaughter them, Foil Bista said to Marco behind him. Marco looked at Foil Bista who was blocking in front of him, and couldn't help but be touched in his heart. This kind of touch, to him, is like a stranger who does not hesitate to lend a helping hand when you are tired, thirsty, hungry. In order to kill Drought Jack before, Marco consumed amazingly. Even if he has extraordinary recovery ability, he really needs to recover at this moment. After that, there are more powerful enemies to come. Marco looked at Foil Bista and said, just block it for a moment. Bista did not look back, and handed his back to Marco with great trust. Don't worry, leave it to me. Aren't you doing it yet? Deep-sea crocodile rushed at Lester J.K. said warmly. Will the two join forces? Many pirates couldn't help but look at Lester K. In the face of many eyes, Lester S.K. made a surprising move, and he directly retreated tens of hundreds of meters. I'm not in a hurry. Deep-sea crocodile is angry in his heart, and at this moment, he has an arrow on the string and has to send it. I heard that you were seriously injured in the battle with the Blackbeard Pirates. Unexpectedly, at this time, I had to stand up. He ignored the others and turned his head to stare at Foil Bista. Since you want to die for Marco first, then I will fulfill you. The voice has not fallen. The deep-sea crocodile has rushed again, and the ground is shaking violently, like an earthquake. The eerie huge crocodile's mouth suddenly opened and bit into Foil Bista. At the moment when the enemy moved, Foil Bista had already taken out his sword. His sword was as fast as lightning, and his figure was even more desperate, rushing straight to the open mouth of the big crocodile that was tens of meters away. Fine death. Seeing that Foil Bista actually took the initiative to send it to the door, the deep-sea crocodile was overjoyed in his heart, and he bit it down fiercely. The crocodile's terrifying biting ability is enough to tear any enemy into pieces of flesh in a moment. Foil Bista went forward, and the moment the sword light lit up like lightning, his whole person rushed directly into the mouth of the huge crocodile. At this moment, everyone was stunned. What kind of play is this? At first, he was so murderous in spite of his life. Even Marco, seeing such a scene, couldn't help but be stunned. How dangerous the crocodile's mouth was, not to mention, this is a fierce and domineering carnivorous person of the animal system. This is not at all like the calm and thick Bista in the impression. Just thought of this. Marco's expression, suddenly frozen. Episode 72. Poof. Just when everyone was amazed by Foil Bista's don't die choice, the huge pair of crocodile eyes of the deep-sea crocodile like copper bells suddenly appeared a look of horror that had never been seen before. Before he could react, an extremely strong light suddenly broke through his neck. Foil Bista holds a double sword and pierces through. Thundered. The huge and fierce crocodile fell directly to the ground, grunting, and the giant mouth cracked, and blood like a river flowed out, staining the ground red. Deep-sea crocodile, on this. Death. Many pirates were in an uproar. They couldn't believe their eyes. The sea thief who offered a reward of 800 million Bailey, the deep-sea crocodile that once dominated the New World, was killed like this? Not really. The whole process is very short, but in fact, some time has passed in between. This seemingly simple action of entering the crocodile's mouth and strangling it like a thunder is full of dangers unknown to outsiders. You know, the deep-sea crocodile, but the sea thief, with a reward of 800 million Bailey. Even if the reward does not represent absolute strength, all the pirates who offer a reward of more than 300 million Bailey are all fierce people with superior strength. You can imagine how difficult it is to kill this deep-sea crocodile. Foil Bista is dressed in a suit, not stained with any stains from killing enemies, spotless, clean uncle image. With his back to Marco, he stepped forward some distance. The long sword in his left hand was straight on the ground, and the long sword in his right hand was across in front of him, and for the first time a smile appeared on his kind uncle-like face. Disappear without a trace. He turned his back to Marco and looked at the pirates in front of him. You guys. Who else wants to step forward? Several pirates who were secretly preparing to do something went into hiding again. Cannibal Lester K. His eyes flickered. He did not retreat, and he did not advance. Silence. Time goes on, and Marco is constantly recovering the wear and tear of killing Drought Jack. Ding. In the fierce battle with the strong in the flesh twice, through the auxiliary mechanism of the super assistance system, the host successfully obtained a large increase in the space of the physical body, and at the same time obtained a large increase in strength, endurance, healing ability, and recovery ability. Ask the host to elevate itself. The voice of the system sounded in Marco's head. Ding. In hand-to-hand combat, the host successfully passed the auxiliary mechanism of the super assistance system to obtain a significant improvement in physical skills. Please improve yourself. Ding. Congratulations to the host. In the fierce battle, constantly use the undead bird fruit ability, through the auxiliary mechanism of the super assistance system. Get the opportunity to develop the undead bird fruit ability. Without saying a word, Marco immediately carried out all aspects of improvement. Woohoo! Suddenly, the most evil pirate hunter of the Snakehead clan, who had disappeared before, Black Snake Poison, walked out slowly from the shadows. He was domineering and saw what made him come out. His gaze fell on Foil Bista. Feet. Saw. At the foot of Foil Bista, there was no unusual ground. At this moment, it was stained with red blood, and a large area of the ground under his feet was stained, and the blood. The continuous flow from Foil Bista's straight body is shocking. The originally clean suit in front of him had already been dyed red, and just looking at it, he felt that his scalp was numb. Shoo! All the pirates looked at the burly man standing upright, and couldn't help but gasp for air. Boom! Oh! Almost at the same time, before and after, Cannibal Lester K and the Snakehead clan Black Snake and Poisonous 2, decisively moved. Without any hesitation, as soon as the two moved, there was immediately a sound of wind and thunder. Their goal. Foil Bista standing straight over there. Between the electric stone firelight, the two extremely fierce people in the underground world have already killed them. At this moment, two sharp blue flame short spears flashed instantly, and the moment the snort sounded, it had already killed the Cannibal Lester. The bodies of K and the Snakehead clan Black Snake Poison are pierced. The terrifying and powerful flame short spear directly blasted the two of them out. The two people who flew out upside down instantly changed drastically, and a look of horror appeared on their faces that they had never seen before. The short spirit flame pierced their bodies. These two people were both domineering owners, but they were horrified to find that when Marco's two short spears came to kill, none of them felt it. Far more domineering than we see. The hearts of the two were like a terrifying wave, shaking. Boom. The two who flew out upside down were nailed to a stone mountain. Hoo. At this time, the Foil Bista standing upright, the burly body, could no longer support it. It was shaky. The long sword he originally held in his right hand fell to the ground with a bang, and his entire left arm had already slumped and lost consciousness. Marco reached out to hold Foil Bista's shoulder, and the dark blue regeneration flame instantly swirled up, almost in the blink of an eye, enveloping the latter's entire body. This is an old wound left by Blackbeard before. Marco didn't speak, but it was Foil Bista, a burly man, who was the first to explain. He managed to smile and said, I thought it was already good, who knows? It turned out that the old wound recurred. It's not a recurrence of an old wound, your wound has never healed, it's just that you forcibly covered it with a suit. In front of him, there was a shocking wound that ran diagonally down from his left shoulder, passed through his chest, and spread to his right leg. All the blood on the ground came from this wound. That's why Foil Bista chose that extreme method when killing the deep-sea crocodile. Because he was already seriously injured, he forcibly depleted the potential of this overwhelmed body and killed the deep-sea crocodile desperately. This burly uncle who was not good at words expressed his determination to protect his family in the most direct and clumsy way. Marco's heart was touched again. For him, this kind of touch has never been. On Earth, Marco is terminally ill. No one has helped him except his parents, let alone felt the care of his parents, and is alone fighting the disease. After coming to the pirate world, Marco felt only cruel, sinister, and dangerous from the beginning until just now. Countless powerful pirates want his life. He fought to the death all the way and killed all the enemies he encountered. He only thought of, live, anyone who wants his life, he will not let go, and even took the initiative to trigger this big event at any cost. Healed. Just for a moment, Marco withdrew the regeneration flame, he smiled, and looked at the empty stone mountain. Those two are still alive. Ha ha ha. The feeling of exhilaration, finally back. Foil Bista's face finally appeared on his face again. He turned around and chased after the past. After a while, Foil Bista strode the meteor back. I saw that in his hand. He was carrying Lester K. Black snake poison, too. Head. This means that Foil Bista, who was previously stained with blood and could not move, was completely healed. At this moment, the uproar echoed over the entire island. Countless people couldn't believe their eyes, and everyone couldn't help but recall in their minds, just now, the picture of Foil Bista covered in blood, and the ground under his feet was stained with red blood. That horrible wound. Healed like that? Episode 73. Many pirates only saw Marco holding Foil Bista's shoulder, dark blue flames. Foil Bista, who was originally so seriously injured that he bled profusely and could not move. Just a few minutes later, Foil Bista healed from his injuries, and ran directly out, putting Lester Bista. The heads of K and Black Snake Poison were brought back. Is this the horror of the undead bird fruit ability? All the pirates were stunned. This healing effect was really too shocking and worldly. It's nothing short of miraculous. Nope. This is a miracle. Although everyone did not see how shocking and earthly the scars hidden under Foil Bista's suit were, the blood that soaked the earth was enough to show how shocking the injuries on Foil Bista's body were. Even with such a terrifying injury, Marco made a move. In just a few minutes, the injury was perfectly healed. Isn't this a miracle? Of all the people, who is the most shocked? Of course, it is none other than Foil Bista himself. The burly man with the image of this uncle was full of surprise, and his heart was even more surprised. This was definitely the only time he had known Marco in so many years that he was so shocked by the ability of the undead bird. In fact, even Foil Bista himself couldn't believe it was true at first, because before that, Marco's regeneration inflammation did not have this miraculous healing ability at all. Even if he could help others treat their injuries, it was definitely not as fast and amazing as in front of him. In just a few minutes, the hideous wound that had plagued him for a month and had never seen an improvement was all healed. Not only that, but the amazing wear and tear he caused in order to kill the deep-sea crocodile was actually restored. It was like the feeling of being reborn in nirvana, and this feeling shocked Foil Bista one. This burly man, who has always been calm, has a shocked look on his face that does not conform to the image character at this moment, and he looks at Marco's gaze, revealing incredulity. Marco. What have you experienced this month? Fight. Marco spread his hands and said matter-of-factly. Hearing Marco's such a sparse and ordinary answer, Foil Bista looked confused. Fighting for a month, ability improvement is so terrifying? Marco nodded solemnly. Don't tell me it's true. Foil Bista was still in surprise and shock in his heart, and he couldn't accept Marco's understated explanation for a while. In his thoughts, Marco must have undergone an extremely painful transformation during this month of dispersion, in order to have such a big change and improvement. Thinking of this, Foil Bista strengthened his inner conviction. In fact, Marco is really just a fight, but with a super assistance system. Every time he fights, he can get a big improvement in all aspects. According to the original words of the system, although the host fights to the fullest, all other difficult things are left to the system. Armed color domineering, seeing and smelling domineering, overlord color domineering, physical skills, flesh, all attributes have been amazingly improved, especially the undead bird ability. After getting a development opportunity, he also developed the second stage of the undead bird ability. This includes, but is not limited to, the extremely compressed destruction flame ball and immortal god fist that have been used before, and the second stage regenerative flame that has just been used for Foil Bista. Can heal extremely serious injuries as quickly as possible, and the flame wings that he is now conjuring up to behind his back are even more than 40 or 50 meters long, almost doubling, which is the most direct embodiment, and the speed and strength of flying have been greatly improved. If you have a chance, use that trick, Marco thought to himself. The extreme terrifying compression of the flame of freezing chi and the flame of burning to form two balls of destructive power. This move, he thought of the ability of the meatball fruit, and developed it casually. A simple, brutal, and destructive move. As for the other move, which has not been used for the time being, it was developed based on the big duel between Ace and Blackbeard, combined with the ability of the undead bird. It's just that the consumption is too amazing, so when killing Drought Jack, I didn't use it. After Foilbista healed from his injuries, the sea thieves of the underworld who originally came to Marco no longer made any moves. Some sea thieves who originally landed on the island secretly withdrew from the island and stayed on the surrounding sea. Marco brought them too many shocks, the thunderous means that killed Edward Weibel in seconds, the shocking act of blasting Drought Jack, the miracle of raising his hand to bring the dead back to life and heal his serious injuries. Without exception, each of them fiercely shocked the heart of every pirate. On the island, where Marco's gaze swept, all the pirates involuntarily retreated, even the pirates on the sea far away. They all involuntarily subconsciously shrank their heads. It seems that no one dares to come looking for trouble for the time being. Foilbista put away the double swords in his hand, and after a while, the shock and surprise in his heart barely calmed down, and his eyes couldn't help but look at the sea in the distance. I don't know what happened to Jaws. Diamond Josie. During the battle with the Blackbeard Pirates, he was the most seriously injured. Rain no Shiru, in particular, left an amazing slash on Jaws. The rest of the remaining members of the Whitebeard pirate group were scattered and fled to various islands in the world, except for Foilbista, who happened to be close to this island and arrived in time, and the rest of the personnel. Marco didn't answer, his gaze looking at the sea on the other side. The wind and beautiful weather, under the sunshine, the sea looks unusually calm. At a glance at the edge of the sea, several large pirate ships with lipstick skulls hanging are coming at a rapid speed. For Emperor's Big Mom Pirates arrived. At this time, some pirates saw the pirate ship on the other side of the sea and immediately exclaimed. Everyone couldn't help but tighten their hearts. The 4 Emperor's Big Mom pirate group is finally here. Unconsciously, the atmosphere around the entire island became tense again, and everyone looked at the several pirate ships sailing at full speed, constantly expanding. Shoo! At this time, the little phone worm in Marco's arms suddenly rang. Stuxy? Marco connected the phone worm and spoke. On the other end of the phone worm, sure enough, Stussy's delicate voice came. Marco, I have some news on my side, I have to tell you. Episode 74. Got something important? What's the matter? Marco said casually. We were attacked by the Don Quixote pirates led by Doflamingo, but we evacuated early. All the members were unharmed. The Happy Street Islands completely disappeared, where we are now. Stussy said with a point, describing the cause and effect in one sentence. Doflamingo's Don Quixote family? Markova shimmered. He almost forgot that he had also slaughtered Virgo, the highest official of the Don Quixote family, and now it seemed that Doflamingo's revenge on the Happy Street had something to do with him. It seems that the relationship between Doflamingo and Kaido is quite close. Marco thought. A thought flashed through his mind, and he quickly said, since it's okay, then don't worry about Doflamingo, you talk about other things. The Blackbeard Pirates are attacking the base camp of the Revolutionary Army in the New World. This 430 interest is definitely a news worth paying attention to, Stussy thought. This may become an important news to change the world pattern. Marco should be more surprised, right? It turns out that the island of White Earth Baldigo is the base camp of the Revolutionary Army in the New World. Stuxy continued, and as soon as she got the news, she was really shocked. The Revolutionary Army has always been mysterious, and few people know where their base is, let alone their base camp. Even the world government, a world-ruling behemoth, could not get more information about the Revolutionary Army. Well, I know, Marco said subconsciously. Huh? You already knew? Stussy was stunned for a while. She didn't understand. How did Marco know? That bland tone doesn't seem like a lie. As a person who has read the original book, Marco naturally knows that after the big battle between the Blackbeard Pirates and the remnants of the Whitebeard Pirates, it didn't take long to attack Monchi, the base camp of the Revolutionary Army under the leadership of D. Dorag. The Blackbeard Pirates, in order to get a large batch of arms collected by the Revolutionary Army, Marco casually explained, if memory serves, that it should be the Revolutionary Army that overthrew a kingdom in the New World. Coincidentally, that kingdom belonged to a force in the underground world, and a large arms deal was underway, and then the arms were all confiscated by Dorag. As for where the Blackbeard Pirates got the news, this is unknown. Stuxy on the other end had already opened his mouth slightly in shock, and his beautiful eyes were full of surprise. These news, even her, did not find out, but Marco knew in advance. Unbelievable. That was shocked for a short time. Stussy came out of his surprise, and then got down to business. The base camp of the Revolutionary Army must be huge. These two forces are at war, and the Blackbeard Pirates will definitely be hit hard. This is a great opportunity for us. This was the most important point of Stucci's call this time. In her opinion, the power of the Revolutionary Army is not weak at all, and it is mysterious, and everything is full of unknowns. The Blackbeard Pirates will definitely kick the iron plate this time, which is simply a godsend for Marco. Marco was slightly stunned. If he hadn't read the original book, he would have had the same idea as Stussy. He mused slightly. The Blackbeard Pirates will attack the Revolutionary Army base camp with almost no damage, successfully defeating Baldigo, but he will get nothing, huh? Why? Because Dorag will definitely not exceed the true strength of the army, choose to retreat with all the troops, and the things will also be taken away, and at most some revolutionary soldiers will be left to make an appearance. Is this really going to be the case? Stussy felt very incredible. She, naturally, would not doubt Marco's words, but it's really incredible. And what makes Stussy feel most incredible is how did Marco know about these secret news? Also, will the Revolutionary Army really choose to avoid fighting? Any other news? Marco understood Stucci's surprise. Yes. First of all, there is another news about the Blackbeard Pirates. The former admiral of the Navy headquarters Green Pheasant joined them, and I don't know if Blackbeard deliberately leaked the news. He sent the Green Pheasant to deal with you. In addition, we inadvertently inquired about a Big Mom, the strongest of the 4 desert stars, Charlotte Katakuri, right now. This time, Stussy didn't pause anymore and said everything in one go. Green pheasants, Kotaku chestnuts? For the former, Marco is not the slightest bit worried. As for the latter, I really look forward to his arrival. Marco immediately asked, is there any news about Kaido and Auntie? The 4 emperors Kaido evaporated like the world, without the slightest news. Only news about the 4 emperors Charlotte lingling. Meanwhile, at an altitude of 10,000 meters above the sea surface of the New World, white clouds are like the sea, and cirrus clouds are like ocean waves. In the midst of a beautiful empty island surrounded by white clouds, it seems like there is a mountain. An empty island resident with angel-like wings pointed ahead in surprise, where the clouds and mist were shrouded, and I don't know when there was an extra mountain. Can't you? Where are the mountains over here? Several other winged empty island residents looked ahead in amazement. They had lived here for decades and had never heard of it, and there were mountains here. When they looked over, a scene that shook them all happened. That high mountain moved. That's not a mountain. That's a huge monster. One person covered his mouth and said in horror, nope. That's not a monster. That's a person. Finally, many empty island residents saw clearly that the behemoth in front of them turned out to be a strange person like a mountain. Everyone was shocked. Such a fact frightened them to retreat one after another, not daring to go in that direction. That guy. Where did it come from? What does he want to do? No one answered him. The island where Marco is located. On the sea, the eyes of all the pirates fell on the pirate ship fleet under the Big Mom, which was getting closer and closer. Talk is also gradually spreading. I don't know how many strong people will come from the Big Mom thief group this time. Someone paid attention to this problem. Drought Jack was bombarded by Marco. The scene was too shocking. Until now, it still makes people involuntarily frightened. The desert 4 stars with the same name as the 3 major disasters, especially the strongest among them, Charlotte Katakuri, is a transcendent existence that makes people smell 4.5. Look, someone grabbed the telescope and exclaimed, it's the desert 4 stars. 1, 2, 3. 3 at once. Sure enough, everyone saw that on the main ship at the front, 3 of the 4 stars of the desert came out of the cabin and stood on the deck. Hiss. The highest representative of the 4 emperors Big Mom thief group, the desert 4 general stars with the same name as the 3 disasters of the 100 beast pirate group. 3 people came at once. This made many people gasp for air. Only 3? Charlotte Katakuri didn't come? Who knows? Maybe he's in the cabin. It's hard to say. The pirate ship fleet of the Big Mom pirate group is getting closer and closer. All the pirates couldn't help but breathe nervously. Episode 75. The Big Mom thief group made a strong appearance, attracting everyone's attention, and countless people exclaimed. The arrival of 3 stars of the desert 4 stars is an amazing battle, enough to make the top pirate groups in the New World retreat. It seems that in this battle, the Big Mom thieves came with the determination to kill Marco. Many pirates, without exception, thought of this, the highest combat power of the Big Mom thief group. 3 of the 4 stars of the desert are dispatched together. What an exaggerated battle. As soon as they appear, they will be shocked by the pirates present. Marco is not alone now, and the foil bista beside him is also very strong. Someone said so. This is definitely a big battle worth looking forward to. There is no one-sided situation. The Big Mom thief group desert 4 stars are dispatched, and Marco has foil bista on his side. But after all, foil bista's injuries have just been healed. How much combat power can be exerted? It is not yet known. Someone questioned. Foil Bistati returned to the heads of 2 sea thieves in the underground world, and that scene really shocked everyone. But after all, those 2 were pierced through the body by Marco's first hand, and it was the case of being injured. These people's doubts, after all, are doubts about Marco's miraculous healing. How could there be such a terrifying injury that was cured in just a few minutes? Even if it is to regenerate the flesh, it can't be so exaggerated. It really shocked everyone at first, but as time went by, the voices of doubt increased. Boom! The pirate ships under the Big Mom pirate group drove over, and all the pirate ships retreated early, giving way to a spacious navigation lane, not daring to approach half a minute. After a while, several pirate ships of the Big Mom pirate group docked, and they did not appear in the way of bombing all the pirate ships like Drought Jack, so they came rampant, docked directly on the coast, and landed on the island domineeringly. Undead Bird Marco. I'll take your first level. Charlotte Snag, who is incomparably vast, was the first to stand out, shrouded in an unusually exaggerated vast black suit, like a heavy moving wall. I'll meet him. Foil Bista stood up at once. Watch out for Charlotte Klee, a badly underrated battle maniac. Before he went into battle, he whispered to Marco beside him. Since Foil Bista, who has always been composed of calm and composure, said so, there must be his reason. Marco nodded. Okay, I'm staring at the Klee frame. Swish. Foil Bista rushed out, his figure moved quickly, and the double swords in his hand suddenly pulled out as he approached Charlotte Snag. If you want to kill Marco, come up with some real skills. Charlotte Snag's vast body rushed over overbearingly. Get out of the way, I want the head of Marco. You. Not qualified yet. It's arrogant enough. Hulala. Foil Bista held two swords in his hand, and for a while, the white sword light in the sky bloomed like a piercing white death flower, instantly enveloping Snag's body. Buzz. The strong armed color domineering covers Snagna's broad body, directly block all the sword flowers that come from the slash. Sparks flying. His two slender arms like mechanical arms suddenly reached out and went straight to Foil Bista's head. The defense is amazing. Foil Bista didn't care about the arms that came over at great speed. The two swords in his hand suddenly looked vertical and horizontal, taking on a cross shape, and in an instant, there was an amazing sword energy condensation and explosion. Two knife flow, ding wound, cross slash, Oryu, cherry blossoms, instant bloom, woohoo. The double swords cut out, and this piece of sky was like snowflakes falling, and cherry blossoms appeared, but these cherry blossoms all appeared white bones. It's too late, it's too soon. The cross-shaped double sword slashed down on Snag at an astonishing speed. At this moment, the countless white cherry blossom bones that fell down bloomed in unison, extremely gorgeous. Burst, like a mountain. Snag, who rushed over, a look of horror appeared in his eyes. He looked down and was shocked to find that his rapidly protruding mechanical arms had been cut off, and a deep bone crosswound appeared on his chest. Not only that, above his vast body, the wounds that bloomed like cherry blossoms stood constantly gushing blood, which was extremely shocking. Impossible. Snag was in shock, and took several steps back one after another, his face full of incredulity. Foil Bista. When did it become so strong? In the past, they were the top combat forces under the four emperors of the New World, and it was not the first time that the two had clashed. However, this time Snag felt the death threat from Foil Bista for the first time. Nothing is impossible. Foil Bista did not hesitate and chased after him again. He, just at the cost of great attrition, in one blow, contains two killing moves, which is the strongest second sword flow school, and it is also his Foil Bista masterpiece. After slashing Snag, you will definitely strike while the iron is hot and kill him in one fell swoop. Shout. Foil Bista's figure is like electricity, and the double swords in his hand are slashed in an instant again. Snag, who was still arrogant and domineering a moment ago, is now numb in his scalp, fearful, and retreats repeatedly, but injured. How could he have Foil Bista's speed? Gong. Foil Bista chased after him, and before the person approached Snag, the double swords in his hand had already been slashed and fell. Humph. Charlotte Klee, who was standing at the other end, snorted coldly, and the huge long sword in his hand instantly came to kill. Foil Bista seems to be desperate to kill Snag, even if he sees that the domineering man already knows that the giant sword of the Klee frame is coming from the cave. He still does not retreat, and the double swords in his hand do not hesitate to slash down on Snag's body. Seeing the giant sword of the Klee frame, it is about to pierce the Foil Bista whole. A huge blue flame fist, the second strike came first, and with a bang, it instantly blasted the giant sword of the Klee frame into the air. Poof. Blood flew from Snag's body, and his eyes were full of incredulity, allowing him to break his head, and he could not imagine that Foil Bista was determined to kill him, even desperately. What made him feel even more incomprehensible was why the Bista that used to be indistinguishable from the top and bottom is so much stronger today. Boom boat. Snag's eyes were wide and puzzled, his vast body. Crash, death, second more. Come, follow my rhythm and burn. Episode 76. Snag threw himself to the ground and died in bloodshed. This is an astonishing gap with the arrogance and domineering he just showed on the island. For a time, it caused a burst of exclamations. Many pirates who were hiding in the distant sea to watch the battle couldn't help but exclaim. The strong means displayed by Foil Bista have exceeded everyone's cognition, and in their opinion, the two who fought first should be almost the same. It was completely crushed and killed. Where did the people who questioned Marco's healing abilities before? At this time, a pirate stood up and asked around. Originally, many pirates suspected that the injuries on Foil Bista had not healed at all, and suspected that Marco's regeneration inflammation was just healing the trauma. At the moment, Foil Bista showed strength, and the thunderous means of Snag and the 4 stars of the desert were like a loud slap, fiercely pumping on the faces of these people. Tell them what an amazing effect Marco's regenerative flame has. Miracles do not explain. Many pirates began to worship Marco, and even their gaze in the direction of the island where the battle was fought became frenzied. Almighty handsome Marco. Shooting is a miracle. Killing Snag is just the beginning. Lord Marco will definitely make the Big Mom Thief group return. Gradually, more and more 430 pirates began to worship Marco, transforming into Marco's fan sister. Of course, none of this affected the tension on the island. At the moment when Snag fell to the ground, another astonishing long sword struck in an instant. Burst. Foil Bista only had time to cover his body with armed domineering, and then he was cut off by this long sword, and blood spurted out. It's another of the 4 stars of dessert, Charlotte Smoogie. Swish. As soon as Marco raised his hand, a huge flame palm that was 5 or 6 meters long quickly grabbed Foil Bista, who flew out upside down. Small injury. Foil Bista landed, looked back at Marco gratefully, and said indifferently to the bleeding wound on his body, a little skin trauma. I'll do the rest. You go and stare at the other pirates. Marco motioned for Foil Bista to step away for the time being. Are you going to? 1 against 2. Foil Bista stared. I feel that I can't see through Marco more and more. With 1 against 2, is it a little too much to look down on the people of the Big Mom Thieves group? These 2 in front of them are also 2 of the strongest combat power, BDEF, Desert 4 generals of the 4 Emperors Big Mom Thieves group. That's right. Foil Bista inexplicably thought of a question. Now it should be Desert 3 stars. That insolent Snag has already been slaughtered by him. Well, these 2, leave it to me. Marco nodded lightly. Then you be careful, I'll go and saw the small fish and shrimp. Foil Bista no longer hesitated, he quickly retreated. He inside. Marco always said one thing, what he said, must be sure. What's more, he also knew that there were other hidden crises around this island. He might as well take the opportunity to get rid of all the annoying dirt that was hidden in the dark. Of course, these annoying small fish and shrimp are not small. All of them were once famous in the New World. It's just that Uncle Foil Bista has come, and now he is learning to use Marco's understatement. Foil Bista retreated, he was killed by Charlotte Smoogie. Is Marco going to fight 1 against 2? A pirate exclaimed. It seems. Charlotte Smoogie's strength is seriously underestimated. Many pirates understood and couldn't help but exclaim. Foil Bista defeated the insolent Charlotte Snag in a strong posture, and his strength was strong. However, he has the domineering and armed domineering color of sight, but he was injured by a sword hole by Charlotte Smoogie. This shows from the side that Charlotte Smoogie is above Foil Bista whether he is domineering or armed. This made many people secretly frightened. The combat effectiveness of this burly female killer of the long-legged tribe has been seriously underestimated by the world in the past. Charlotte Klee, 860 million berry. And Charlotte Smoogie's bounty is as high as 932 million berry. The sum of the bounty for the 2 is as high as 1,792 million Bailey. Many pirates were amazed. These 2 people, after all, are the strongest combat power of the 4 Emperors Big Mom Thieves group. Even if they look at the entire New World, absolutely no one dares to underestimate them. The wounded Bista retreated. Does Marco really plan to fight 2 with 1? Can you fight? Many pirates are questioning. Really 1 against 2? Lord Marco is so domineering, handsome. Those pirates who worshipped Marco lit up one by one, and their sense of worship continued to rise. 1 against 2? You're crazy. Charlotte Klee's giant sword pretzel in her hand was aimed at Marco, and his body was shrouded in cookie armor, making him look like a rather majestic general. Superman Cookie Fruit ability, Trample. Charlotte Smoogie, who was holding a long sword and reaching a height of 4 meters and 6, also did not hesitate to take out the sword, aimed at Marco, and said grimly, if you want to drink a glass of juice before you die, I suggest you drink a glass of juicing from a living person. Superman Fruit Squeezer ability, her abilities. Cruelly and mercilessly juice the living. Where is so much nonsense? Marco suddenly transformed a blue flame knife, the kind of Whitebeard, in his hand, no longer had any nonsense, and suddenly slashed out domineeringly. This knife was cut out, and the flames turned into a slash, domineering, and slashed over. A crack appeared on the ground, spreading out like lightning. The flame slashed and rushed straight to the opposite 2. Charlotte Klee and Charlotte Smoogie both shot almost at the same time, and the long sword and the giant sword suddenly cut out. Rumble. A violent vibration was heard, and the flame slash was cut off instantly, and for a while, the flames splashed and the flames gushed. In the violent shock, Charlotte Klee and Charlotte Smoogie rushed towards Marco. Kill. Marco snapped, his body rushed forward, and a pair of huge blue flame wings up to more than 50 meters long immediately appeared behind him, soaring up, and rushed over at an even faster speed, and the huge knife in his hand that was 6 or 7 meters long suddenly cut out against the 2 who rushed to kill. Charlotte Klee and Charlotte Smoogie, who rushed to kill, jumped at the same time and soared into the sky, and the 2 slashed at Marco at the same time. Click. Like the sound of lightning tearing the heavenly firmament, it was low and terrifying. The moment the 3 forces fell together, a storm formed in an instant, rolling out in all directions, white energy, like a long snake dancing. What? Charlotte Klee's face hidden in the cookie armor suddenly changed. Click. Episode 77. In this second, not only Charlotte Klee's face changed dramatically, but even Smoogie's face also changed. It's too late, it's too soon. I saw that the 2 of them had a long sword, and a giant sword slashed at Marco's body almost without any obstruction, and the dark blue regeneration flame instantly burst out. Almost at the same time, the huge knife in Marco's hand, which condensed the mighty power, also fell without hindrance. The body of the acrylic frame, the cookie armor on his body like a great general almost instantly clicked, and with the sound of the sound, dense cracks suddenly appeared. Immediately after, with a bang, the solid cookie armor that shrouded its body burst out, turning into cookie fragments all over the sky, splashing out in all directions. The sword in Marco's hand was cut down, but there was still no pause, and it really fell on the real body of the Klee frame. 430. Burst. Even if he covered his real body with armed domineering energy, increasing his defense power several times, blood almost flew out and poured down like a sudden rain. Obviously, whether it is a battle in strength or a battle in armed color domineering, he has fallen into the downwind. His armed color domineering can't stop Marco's armed color domineering. Not only that, at this moment, Kelly was even more surprised to find that his domineering appearance did not see Marco's slashing trajectory in advance. His domineering appearance is also above me, Klee thought in his mind. His whole person has been cut out. The blood streaked a trajectory in midair, and while the smell of blood permeated, the acrylic frame had dragged out a billowing smoke and dust on the ground, crashing out I don't know how many meters. Retreat. Without any hesitation, Charlotte Smoogie withdrew. She hit the blow, but was surprised to find that her long sword, which had killed countless sea thieves, fell on Marco, causing only a momentary wound, and the moment the flame of regeneration was wrapped around, the wound no longer existed. Even in the eyes of a strong person of her level, this undead bird fruit ability is really a little too perverted. Marco struck a blow, his body took 2 amazing slashes, and he also flipped back. Under the flap of his huge flaming wings, he stabilized his figure with just one flip, but it was not a big deal. The slashes left by Kelly Frame and Smoogie had healed almost in the moment after the deep blue regeneration flame was shrouded, and at this time, they had healed, and the slightest wound could not be seen at all. Wow. The many pirates watching the battle on the sea were in an uproar. The 2-4 Emperor's big mom thieves joined forces, and in the hands of Marco, after only one confrontation, they were injured and retreated. How do I have the illusion that Marco's strength more powerful than before? Some people are so amazed. It doesn't matter if you don't say it, this said. A pirate has this feeling. They only felt that the destructive power of Marco's shot just now concealed the previous time when he exploded Drought Jack. Impossible, it's an illusion. Once the strength reaches the level of the 4 emperors, if you want to improve even a small section, it is like ascending to the sky. Such a short time. How could he possibly do ascension? Someone shook his head vigorously, and such thoughts were expelled. But he recalled the picture just now in his mind, always did not compare, and then, even more frightened, found that this turned out to be true. Oh my god, this is incredible. Marco's combat effectiveness, in such a short period of time, has actually improved again? There are not a few people with such amazing ideas. Undead Bird Marco. In everyone's minds, there was a lingering blue flame. Once again, everyone thought of the deep blue regeneration flame. Once again, it was like a miracle, instantly healing the wounds left by the 2 desert 4 stars. Terrifying Undead Bird Fruit ability. Countless people have to sigh for it. The ability of the Undead Bird Fruit is really too perverted. Wow, is it handsome? With 1 against 2, instantly beat the 2 of them to injury and retreat. Marco is worthy of my most admired idol, handsome and explosive. Amid the many exclamations, there were still many sounds of adoration. Above the sea of Wang Yang, where the strong are respected, the pirates worship the strong even more, and it is obvious that Marco is the strong in their eyes. Come on, idol. Blast them. On the sea, there are female pirates clenching their fists and waving, shouting, and cheering for Marco in the distance. Are you alright? Charlotte Smoogie flashed and landed on the ground and asked. It's okay. A shocking wound spread from the left shoulder of the acrylic frame to the right lower back, especially the wound near the left shoulder, and it was even more shocking. Kelly Frame can also be regarded as a real man. He didn't even frown, and stood up directly. Whoosh! At the wound on his body, an extremely strong layer of biscuits appeared. This guy actually forcibly sealed the wound with cookies. Beware of his domineering and armed domineering, Kelly said in a dull voice. His own strong armed domineering, in front of Marco, was directly smashed as if it was a void, which really shocked him. However, what shocked the most was the domineering appearance. In this regard, not only he was inferior to Marco, but even Smuggy was also unmatchable. Then give it your all. Owen and Snag are both dead, if they can't kill Marco. We will face Mom Wrath. Charlotte Smoogie is constantly gathering her strength. Rumble. It's just that. Before they could rush over, Marco on the other end had already flapped his huge flaming wings, and the whole person was like an immortal phoenix, swooping down and killing at great speed. Humph. Charlotte Klee snorted coldly with anger. His body, not retreating, rushed forward against Marco, and in the middle of the rush, his body suddenly appeared with a full 8 arms, each of which held a giant sword. 8 arms moved in unison, and 8 4.5 giant swords rushed forward in vain to kill the whole. Wait pretzel. This giant sword that rushed forward at great speed flashed bright light in unison, sending out 8 astonishing fluctuations and turning attacks. Like 8 lasers emitting dazzling strong light, they fiercely slaughtered Marco. Meanwhile, Charlotte Smoogie also shot. As a long-legged tribe, her legs have amazing bouncing power, her body presses downward, and the whole person suddenly bursts out with a burst of elastic force, soaring into the sky. At the same time, the long sword in her hand has been covered with a strong and domineering armed color, carrying the momentum of wind and thunder, and slashing Marco's head. At this moment, even the many pirates watching the battle from afar couldn't help but hold their breath. All eyes are locked on Marco. Episode 78. At this second, all eyes were focused on Marco. Especially those pirates who worship Marco incomparably. They are even more nervous. They expect Marco to defeat the two generals with 1 against 2, and they are worried about Marco's safety. After all, the opponent who fights fiercely with Marco is the strongest combat power from the Big Mom Thief group. Even Foil Vista, who had retreated, couldn't help but get nervous at this moment. The only difference between him and others' tension was that he trusted Marco immensely, and he believed that Marco would choose to fight 1 against 2, and he would be sure. At this time, I should hurry up and get rid of all those small fish and shrimp. Foil Vista forcibly keeps himself out of focus on the battlefield. He has his mission, a task that must be shared for Marco. Swish, his figure rushed out again. Where he left, a corpse lay in the grass, wearing a white robe that covered his entire body, with a distorted face. There is a stitched scar. Shoo. After Foil Vista left, in the pocket of the unnoticed corpse, a telephone bug rang rapidly. This phone bug was slightly different from other phone bugs. It is silver. 13. In the face of the 8 amazing fluctuation attacks of the acrylic frame, Marco's face did not change, and the speed of the dive not only did not slow down, but became more and more extremely fast, and the goal was very clear: Charlotte Kelly frame. Woohoo! Amazing fluctuation attacks bombarded one after another. Marco's pair of flaming wings flapped suddenly, and his figure flickered, actually dodging all 8 astonishing fluctuation attacks. It's domineering. Marco's domineering power has become more and more powerful and profound, completely above the level of ordinary domineering. It's just that. He dodged the fluctuating attacks of the acrylic frame below, but he had no time to dodge and bounce up and rush to kill Smoogie. Seeing such a scene, Smuggy couldn't help but show joy. She knew that the target of Marco's direct rush was the gram frame, and she had the opportunity to seriously injure Marco. Burst! Smoogie's long sword instantly pierced Marco's body, and the dark blue flames burst out, but the joy on Smoogie's face did not decrease at all. She grabbed the long sword that pierced Marco's body with both hands, and opened her mouth coldly. Useless, my fruit ability. It's just that. The words are not finished. The joy on Smoogie's face disappeared in an instant. Her cold face was replaced by a look of shock that she had never felt before. Out of the instinct of the strong, she forcibly shifted her body in an attempt to avoid Marco's attack. Unfortunately, she still couldn't dodge in the end. This second, her whole person was like an electric shock. Her pupils suddenly appeared, and the cold hair on her body stood up. She lowered her head and looked at her chest in shock. On the right side of the chest, Marco's fist, wrapped in a ball of flame that shrunk to the limit and emitted an aura of destruction, slammed into it. At this second, everything seemed to slow down, and she looked at her chest in shock. The fist of the ball of flame with the power of destruction constantly destroyed his right chest. From the bulging state, constantly sinking, denting, constantly sinking, constantly sinking. She didn't understand. Obviously Marco's attack was towards the Kelly frame. Why, without warning, it fell on herself? Even if Charlotte Smoogie has seen and heard domineering, she still has no awareness. This is because Marco's sight and smell are domineering above her. Previously, Marco did intend to bombard Klee, intending to respond to the attack of Charlotte Smoogie, a female killer, with the flame of regeneration. However, in that moment, his domineering appearance clearly told him, Charlotte Smoogie's sword will not be so simple. It will be the room for her fruit ability to be used. Superman's ability to squeeze fruits made Marco feel a sense of crisis. He temporarily changed his mind. His fist burst out, compressed a ball of destruction flames, and bombarded Charlotte Smoogie. With that, everything in Charlotte Smoogie's eyes accelerated faster. On the right side of her body, she was blasted out of a blood hole by Marco's punch, and at the same time that blood exploded like a splash, her tall and burly body, like a kite with a broken line, quickly blasted out below. Thundered. Finally, Charlotte Smoogie, who crashed down, smashed a stone mountain, and the rubble splashed in the sky, and the dust flew and filled the air. It missed. Marco withdrew his fist, slightly embarrassed. He meant to punch Charlotte Smoogie in the heart. Who knew that this woman forcibly shifted her body a little in a moment of crisis, in a vain attempt to dodge her punch. This caused Marco's fist to deflect a little and land on her right breast. Although the painting style is a little crooked, it also shows from the side that Charlotte Smoogie's domineering color is not weak, but Marco is stronger. Seeing Charlotte Smoogie being blasted away by Marco's punch, blood burst out, and the Klee frame below was cracked. He suddenly used the power of forward charge. The whole person jumped high, and the 8 giant swords in the 8 arms moved in unison almost at the same time. Boom! Above the 8 giant swords, an astonishing flame of light burned, incomparably dazzling. This 8 giant swords wrapped around light flames, quickly stabbed at Marco in an instant. This is the strongest blow that Charlotte Klee has used all her strength to burst out, and has the panic destructive power to destroy everything. Burst pretzels. I saw this 8 giant swords that stabbed at Marco at great speed, and at the moment when it was close to Marco, the amazing light flames wrapped around it suddenly exploded with 430 lives. This terrifying explosion instantly produced a circle of strong cyclone fluctuations, like a storm, sweeping out. Boom! 8 loud noises resounded over the entire island, deafening, and even many pirates above the sea could not help covering their ears. The strong light produced by the terrifying explosion was even more dazzling, making everyone subconsciously close their eyes and dare not look over there. Even if they wanted to see it, the strong light flame generated by the explosion could not see anything. Is this the destructive power of the thousand-handed acrylic frame? The hearts of the people were terrified. The powerhouse of the star level, sure enough, anyone should not be underestimated. Will Marco be seriously injured? This degree of terrifying explosion, even if they are on the sea in the distance, they all feel a wave of fright, their scalps are numb, they can clearly feel a strong fluctuation sweeping over. And the sea surface is even stirred up in a circle of waves. And Marco, at the center of the Big Bang. And how? Everyone's hearts tightened. Marco. What's going on? Those pirates who worship Marco incomparably closed their eyes one by one, and their hearts were extremely nervous and worried. Episode 79. Charlotte Klee's move caught everyone off guard. No one would have thought. Suddenly, Charlotte Klee would burst out with such an earth-shattering and powerful move. 8 giant swords wrapped around light flames produced a sudden explosion of pretzel wraps, which was mighty and earth-shattering. Intense and piercing flames of light continued to erupt. Violent winds turned into storms and erupted. Where the storm swept, all the earth and rocks of the formation were lifted away. A powerful storm raged down, and even the stone mountain was shattered, and the rubble in the sky was fierce in all directions. The terrifying power of this light flame seemed to melt the air, distorting and deforming. It's terrifying. The power is beyond imagination. As Bista said before, Charlotte Klee is a big killer that is seriously underestimated by the world. Hoo-hoo. Charlotte Klee, who had already landed on the ground and regained her original appearance, gasped heavily. The wound on his chest that had been sewn with biscuits was cracked open again, oozing blood. Just used the strongest move, almost all his strength, but also made his old wound crack again. This hideous wound is the first time Marco left. Just now, with the ability of biscuit fruit, he created 8 arms and giant swords, and then poured out his strength, and at the same time burst out 8 burst pretzels, the consumption of which is extremely amazing. Will it die? Charlotte Klee tilted her head and stared at the place where the flames of light that kept exploding and boiling were located. Storms continue to form, constantly raging down, mighty and powerful. Suddenly, in the big explosion that shook the heavens and the earth, a blue light emerges strongly. Immediately after, in the dazzling explosion of light flames, the blue flames emerged unstoppably, like a volcanic eruption. Almost in the blink of an eye, the blue flame completely engulfed the constantly bursting light flame. Whoosh! Among the blue flames that erupted, there was a faint sleeping undead bird, suddenly awakened, spread its wings, a flame burned up, and the undead bird raised its head to the sky and chirped. In an instant, the raging flames tumbled out and engulfed everything. Between heaven and earth, only endless blue flames remain. At this time, Marco, who was flapping a pair of flaming wings, stepped on the blue flames and walked out of the sea of fire. At this moment, he is like the king of Nirvana rebirth, returning strongly, and the momentum is like a rainbow. Charlotte Klee, who tilted her head, suddenly changed her face drastically, and the eyes that were originally full of expectation, the sense of expectation instantly dissipated, replaced by that shock. The color of horror continued to expand in his pupils, until, occupy the entire pupil, Charlotte Klee was terrified in midair. The Marco with flaming wings, unexpectedly, safe and sound, with all your strength, you can't inflict fatal damage on him? Charlotte Klee, who used to have strong confidence in her own strength, was like suffering 3,000 lightning strikes in her heart at this moment, and a look of disappointment appeared on her face in shock. Disappointed with your own strength? He thought that he had used all his strength to seize a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to blast Marco into the flames of the big explosion with a powerful blow. In the end, the result was that Marco was not injured at all, safe and sound. Sure enough, I still underestimated you. Marco's eyes flashed with endless anger. The situation just now, if it weren't for his undead bird fruit ability, he would definitely be seriously injured or even dead. Even if he had the ability of an undead bird, he still forced him to consume an extremely amazing regeneration flame. This kind of consumption, even the consumption of the previous battle with Drought Jack, the lethality of the thousand-handed acrylic frame far exceeds the perception of ordinary people. Nope. Die. Bird. Horse. You. Section. Charlotte Klee gritted her teeth and said word by word, even if you die, I won't let you feel better. Crash, he built with both hands. A biscuit warrior shaped like a general is like a tide, constantly emerging. Densely packed biscuit warriors, one by one, holding shields and giant swords, with fierce faces. Even though he was desperate, Charlotte Klee still did not sit still, and even, the original shock and disappointment on his face was swept away, replaced by a cruel and fierce color. In that case, please. Get ready for death. Marco's pair of huge flaming wings flapped violently, and the whole person rushed down at great speed with the momentum of killing. At the moment of swooping, his body burned with blue flames, and the huge flame wings tilted obliquely, which was completely a flame undead bird. Kill! Charlotte Klee roared viciously. The countless cookie warriors, like huge waves, rushed towards Marco in unison, and the giant swords in their hands slashed at Marco. Rumble, Marco swooped in, and those cookie warriors who rushed over were directly thrown away by the flames before they touched him. The cookie warriors, who rushed fiercely like huge waves, were almost swept away by Marco's blue flames in one shot. The spectacular scene is like turning a book. Almost at the same time as being lifted away, all the cookie warriors burned with flames, and before they landed, they all turned into ashes. This is clear. Fly to the fire. Marco, fall for me. Charlotte Klee, who was at the back of the cookie warrior, attacked again, and in the rush of speed, the giant sword covered with armed color domineering in his hand suddenly accelerated, stabbed out fiercely, and at the moment of stabbing out, the giant sword was like lightning, rapidly extending and lengthening, and the whole was killed. Boom. It's just that. Before his desperate giant sword could get close, Marco had already punched out. This punch popped out, and the blue flame immediately burst out, and a huge flame fist blasted out, directly smashed Charlotte Klee's giant sword that constantly extended the lightning-like hole, and instantly shattered, and the giant sword turned into countless fragments and rolled upside down. The flame giant fist bombarded unabated, directly hitting Charlotte Klee's body. The moment Charlotte Klee was hit, her entire body was twisted and flattened, her whole face was distorted and deformed, teeth spurted out with blood, and her eyes began to become scattered. Thundered. The Charlotte Klee frame, which was bombarded, smashed into stone mountains, and those stone mountains that were hit exploded instantly, and countless rubble splashed out of the boat. The boom shook the entire island. That Charlotte Klee, who even has a deformed body, can no longer die if she is already dead. Episode 80. Dessert 4 stars. 3 dead. At this moment, the pirates on the sea around the entire island were all boiling. Everyone was shocked. So far in this battle, there are too many dead New Worlds the strong. Whitebeard too, who appeared from the domineering, was killed in seconds. Drought Jack of the 4 Emperors and 100 Beasts pirate group, who appeared strongly, was blasted alive by Marco, and his bones were gone. And then to kill several notorious sea thieves in the underground world. Now, Marco is invincible again, making a strong move, killing the 2 generals of the 4 Emperors Big Mom Thieves group with 1 against 2. So far, this big event that countless people came to Blood Bounty Order made everyone afraid of it, and they didn't dare to deal with Marco in the slightest. The 2 4 Emperors pirate group also suffered heavy losses due to the issuance of the Blood Bounty Order. The 100 Beast pirate group lost 1 of the 3 major disasters, and the Big Mom pirate group lost 3 of the 4 deserts. Powerful and matchless. In the hearts of many pirates, this word came up almost at the same time to describe Marco at this moment. So handsome. With 1 enemy and 2, he was unharmed, and the 2 generals were killed strongly, and the handsome explosion exploded. Worthy of Marco, really domineering. This is a real man. No matter how many enemies there are, they all burst strongly. No matter how strong the enemy is, it's not as strong as me anyway. That grace that looks at the world, that manhood of the return of the king, handsome and handsome. Many pirates showed a look of fanatical adoration, and they almost wanted to rush to the island and ask Marco for an autograph. Marco, this is officially declared war on the 2 sea pirates. Others said this, and he continued, whether it is the 100 Beast pirate group or the Big Mom pirate group, they will definitely not condone Marco to continue to be so strong, not to mention, in this battle, the 2 major and 4 emperor pirates have lost their core top combat power, and the 2 4 emperors won't sit idly by. 2 4 emperors. These few words alone were enough to shock all the pirates present. King of Beasts, Immortal Kaido, known as the strongest undead existence in the world, he has committed suicide countless times, single-handedly broke through the headquarters of the Navy, and even jumped from an empty island several times, but he could not commit suicide successfully. Once the pinnacle powerhouse with the strongest man in the world, Whitebeard, after Whitebeard's death, he was known as the invincible king of the world and looked down on the whole world. When everyone thought of the words not Kaido, their hearts immediately trembled, let alone be an enemy of it. Even this kind of thought did not dare to have. But now, Marco not only officially declared war on the 100 Beasts pirates, but also declared war on the 4 emperors Kaido. What's more, at the same time, another 4 emperors was officially declared war. 4 emperors, Ant, Charlotte Lingling, Shu. The sound of pumping air conditioner continues to echo. Just thinking about it, many pirates can't help but gasp for air. Those 2 terrifying existences, looking at the entire new world, the entire great waterway, the southeast, northwest, and 4 seas, who dares to provoke, can. Now Marco is not only provoked. I provoked 2 at once. Don't forget, there is also the most evil and fierce 4 emperors, Blackbeard, Marshal SD Tiki. Someone exclaimed in a low voice, Black who? I have always wanted to kill all the remnants of the Whitebeard pirate group. Marco. Naturally, Blackbeard is the one he wants to get rid of the most. Whoosh. Hearing these tips, for a time, the entire sea surface was in an uproar. Now it is not 2 4 emperors, but 3. Marco, this is the 4 emperors who have declared war on 3 supreme beings of the new world at the same time. Just thinking about it, I feel that my scalp is numb, and I am terrified. A certain famous sea thief exclaimed. As a sea thief, he don't dare to provoke the 4 emperors either. What's more, 3 people are declared at the same time. It's exciting to think about it. A certain fanatical female fan of Marco, her eyes were shining in the direction of the island. She looked fanatical with adoration. If Lord Marco can gallop the world, declare war on the 4 emperors, and look at the 4 seas, the concubine will be a slave as a servant. I'd love to do it too. The Kingdom of Tazan. Queen Morolo. Someone recognized the female fan who had just looked fanatical and immediately exclaimed, "Oh my god. The first latter kingdom of the New World, the Queen of the Kingdom of Takan." She turned out to be a fan of Marco. Obviously, many pirates have heard the name of this queen and have found it incredible. The vignettes on the sea did not affect Marco. He spread his huge flaming wings at this moment, flew into the sky, overlooking the islands and sea below, and a calm and indifferent voice with a wisp of killing intent entered the ears of every pirate. Who else wants to complete the Blood Bounty Order and the World Government Bounty Order? Hearing Marco's words, all the pirates couldn't help but tremble. The seemingly plain words contained earth-shattering killing intent. Marco's gaze swept over the pirates below, but all the pirates who were swept by Marco's light, without exception, all subconsciously took several steps back, and their hearts thumped and jumped nervously. I'm afraid that Marco will suddenly kill. It seems that there is no one left. Marco fell, and the island under his feet was already full of desolation. Ask for flowers. This large island has sunk a large area, and the island is crisscrossed with cracks, one after another. Those small fish and shrimp lurking in the shadows have all been killed. At this time, Foil Bista came over with 2 swords. His white gloves had already been stained with blood, which was extremely terrifying. Marco nodded. Flies are the most annoying. It's all solved. It couldn't be better. This time, we can be regarded as officially declaring war on the 3-4 emperors at the same time. Foil Bista felt a little frightened. Before he came, he didn't think about this amazing result. He couldn't help but sigh. Marco. Compared with your previous low-key personality, you are almost like 2 people. Are you afraid? Marco did not answer Bista's words head-on. 0. Ha ha ha. In comparison, I still like you now. Foil Bista laughed heartily, and the uncle with a smile on his face said bluntly, since they have all become enemies, let's turn the world upside down. Marco laughed too, laughed from the heart. It's been a long time coming. What do you plan after that? Bista asked, a question he was very concerned about. Hunting. Marco spat out 2 simple words, but it surprised Bista. He said, hunting. Blackbeard Pirates? Nope. Marco said calmly, hunting all enemies. Phew. Bista let out a long breath, and his eyes became excited. It's like returning to the days when blood was boiling. Let's hammer those stupid enemies together. Marco groaned slightly, and finally said, hunting operations, I am enough alone, but it is inconvenient to have more people. You bring all the living brothers and sisters together. Bista was very surprised, but he still chose to believe Marco, did not ask more, and nodded at the moment. Good. Leave it to me, and I will gather all my brothers and sisters together as soon as possible. After he finished speaking, he immediately took out a life paper from his pocket and handed it to Marco. It seems that he has already prepared. Marco took it, put it away, and said, I didn't make life paper. If the phone worm can't be contacted, if you have something to find me, just follow the world's newspapers. Bista.